Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 208, Return of the Nightmare. Achi fled towards their original path in a hurry. Along the way, the scorpions let loose their own saker falcons. Lang Tao Shuijin pressed forward and did all it could to catch up amid the clanging sounds of the heavy armors. The collective sound of the Libe armored cavalry's hooves in hot pursuit was so intense that it unnerved the scorpions, who feared the ice beneath their feet would crack. Moreover, when that sound was catching up just right behind their horses, Achi clenched his teeth and looked back in the wind in humiliation. All he could see was that one heavy armor. Xiao Qi Ye. Bayan suddenly pulled in the reins on the head of his horse as he bumped into Achi from the side and barked sternly, "Retreat, retreat, retreat. Achi, stop looking at him." The snowstorm that resembled flying willow catkins transformed heaven and earth into a sacred, untainted realm. The Biancha cavalry charged madly in the wind for a little less than an hour before they managed to throw off the Libe armored cavalry. Even so, they did not dare to stop. Upon returning to their original path, Bayan suddenly piped up, "Pull out the route markers. Don't leave them behind for Xiao Qi yet." They charged with all their might along their original path, heeding Bayan's instructions not to leave behind route markers for the Libe armored cavalry. Deploy troops to counter-attack tomorrow morning. Bayan was covered tightly in his fur collar and his eyelashes had been dyed white by the wind. He could barely even open them. Xiao Qi Ye will not be able to escape out of the Hashi River once he loses all sense of direction. Achi was livid. His rage blazed so intensely that his chest felt uncomfortable. He had been played for a fool by Xiao Qi Ye even before they came face to face with one another. No matter what, he could not take this lying down. "Listen, Achi." Bayan chased after the lightning-swift Achi and pulled down his collar to shout, "Don't fall for his goading, you hear me?" He did it on purpose. He wiped out both of my flanks. Unable to contain himself anymore, Achi screamed back at Bayan. "He's flaunting his military might to me. That son of a bitch." 3 days ago, Achi took down Xiao Qi Ye's left flank troops and today, Xiao Qi Ye stood there and blew out Achi's left and right flanks. The vanguards of both flanks were all elites. Achi's heart was dripping blood. He felt this to be a warning from Xiao Qi Ye, and the threat was now rubbing it into his face. "I'm going to kill him." Achi lost control and growled, "I will kill." With one fist, Bayan punched Achi off his horse. Having lost its master, the horse slowed down and stopped ahead. Achi rolled in the snow, his chest heaving violently. The hero knows all. If you still want to merge the scorpions into the 12 tribes, then finish Xiao Qi Ye off tomorrow morning. Bayan said in a deep voice. Losing your mind will reduce you to being a jackal, and a jackal can't bite a wolf to death. You'd best clear your head up. Achi lay on the snowfield and grabbed a handful of snow to wipe his face with. He climbed to his feet and caught up to his horse without so much as another word. The atmosphere surrounding the cavalry was glum and heavy. With Achi and Bayan no longer speaking, those at the back did not dare to open their mouths either. They ran in the snowstorm for another 2 hours, and their battle steeds were all exhausted to the point that they were panting. Fortunately, the route markers indicated they had reached the end. The Saker Falcon will notify the reinforcements to hurry this way. Achi slowed his horse and stepped onto the bank. We can wait here. Bayan was feeling uneasy deep down. Due to his introversion, he took particular notice of his environments. The boundless expanse of snow obstructed the world from view and prevented him from getting a clear look at the situation a few steps away, but he could keenly sense that this was not the southeastern part of Duan province from where they came. We went the wrong way. Bayan muttered and squinted his eyes to keep out the gale. Amidst the fog of snow that was being blown away, he indistinctly caught a glimpse of what lay ahead. This place is... A horse at the back that had yet to step ashore suddenly lost its footing, and its hind hoof slid into a hole in the ice. The scorpion on horseback yanked at the reins in the blinding snowstorm, intending to drive the horse back on ice, but in its panic, it broke its hind knees against the edge of the ice and neighed as its entire body overturned into the water. The unit was promptly thrown into disarray. The horses all started panicking, and the scorpions berated them to no avail. Fearing that they would slide into, they could only lash out with their whips hard. Achi heard the sound of heavy armors among the noise. He initially thought it was a misperception, but not long later, the pitch-black armored cavalry materialized for real in the snow. No matter how dumb Achi was, he could also realize what was happening by now. He retreated and shouted, "Get on your horses and move fast." This particular route marker was genuine enough, but Xiao Qiye had long shifted it away from its original location. The footprints were indeed a diversionary tactic. Xiao Qiye's real intention had been to herd them towards this place. Seeing Bayan still in his original spot, Achi bumped into him hard and cursed, "Get on your horse. Snap out of your fucking daze." Bayan turned his eyes to look at Achi. As if sensing it too, Achi looked ahead, and the color drained from his face in horror. The pitch darkness ahead was none other than the Hashi sinkhole. Achi wiped the sweat at his temple and looked out as far as he could, only to see that both flanks of the Libe armored cavalry had already surrounded them from both sides and were now ahead of them. He turned his head back and saw Xiao Qiye. 7 years ago, the Bianchi cavalry buried 40,000 Duan province garrison troops alive here. 7 years later, on the same snow-stormy night, Xiao Qiye used the same battle formation to push them before the Hashi sinkhole. Achi did not know Xiao Qiye, but in this instant, he strangely understood Xiao Qiye's intent. The jut in Bayan's throat bobbed. He squeezed his cowhide-bound book and muttered Hassan's words, returning the favor, an eye for an eye. Xiao Qiye was the wolf that was the toughest to deal with. Bayan knew Xiao Qiye would even bite Hassan to death in order to retrieve Xiao Fangxiu. Once an opponent like this committed his scars to mind, he would retaliate and tear away at his foes with his fangs on his own terms. Reinforcements will be here in a while. Achi unexpectedly calmed down at this juncture. He stared at Xiao Qiye. "Hang in there until then, and this place will still be our slaughterhouse." Achi had never seen Xiao Qiye's real appearance before today, but through that helmet, he seemed to sense Xiao Qiye's scoffing. Achi did not believe in the Bianchi gods, he believed in his own tattoo. As a scorpion surviving in difficult circumstances between the gaps, he would not concede defeat until the very moment his head took leave of his body. However, Xiao Qiye similarly believed in his tattoo. That was his father, and also his Libe. The scar Hassan left behind burned all the time. He had suppressed it for far too long, so long he could even hear his Longli blade howling in its sheath. The violent gale under the snowy dome rode roughshod over the snowflakes, tearing them into pieces of willow catkins flying in the wind. At the moment when the swarm of white blinded his eyes, Achi saw the armored cavalry charge. Their armors were like dusty blades, charging head-on towards the Bianchi cavalry with the momentum of a tempestuous storm that brushed away all the dust on them to reveal sharp blades that glinted coldly in all its glory. The moment the iron hammer came swinging, Xiao Qiye parried it with Longli blade. His horse did not stop as he led the armored cavalry to crash head-on into the Bianchi cavalry amid the screeching sound of friction as blade scraped against blade. Meanwhile, the heavy armor-clad Lang Tao Shuijin threw its head back and knocked askew a pony that was blocking the way. The Bianchi cavalry was like a canteen that had been crushed until it burst. They resisted Xiao Qiye's onslaught of heavy blows for just a mere few blinks of an eye before they were repeatedly rammed back in a retreat by the war chariot battle formation. The sinkhole stretched across them a short distance away. If they retreated again, they would no doubt plunge into it. Achi lifted the iron hammer that weighed 100 jin. In this short period as they crossed swords, he had come to recognize that Xiao Qiye was the most vital part of the Libe armored cavalry. He knocked over an armored cavalryman before him with a swing of his hammer and heard the other man's head slam into the snow with a thud. Hooves stepped over the body, and in a split second, he was already swinging his hammer right in Xiao Qiye's face. But he struck at empty air. Qi thought Xiao Qiye would follow up his victory with an attack, but Xiao Qiye did not. He retreated back in front of the Libai armored cavalry, and this war chariot instantly underwent a transformation. Bayan crowded at the back with his book in his arms and got a clear look as the Libai armored cavalry transformed. Was that the Libai armored cavalry? That was a heavy-duty war chariot. Xiao Qiye was unwilling to give up on Xiao Fangxiu's heavy armors. He did not want to prove his old man wrong. It was through Lu Guangbai, Qi Zuyan, and Yin Chang that he acquired a whole new Libai armored cavalry. Xiao Qiye cast away the former long blades of the Libai armored cavalry on the basis of them being heavy and equipped the Libai armored cavalry under his command with new blades. These were the real long blades, with a length so long that there was no way for the iron hammers to get close. He had observed Lu Guangbai's infantrymen at the battlegrounds. The war chariot battle formation was able to conceal their weakness of not being fast enough. Xiao Qiye directly cut off their need to give chase. He wanted the Biancha cavalry to come lunging into them themselves. That offensive and defensive battle Qi Zuyan fought in the war zone was skillful in its swap between light and heavy cavalry. Xiao Qiye consolidated the imperial army and the Libai armored cavalry together. As long as they appeared on the same battlefield, they would have erratic and unpredictable ways of fighting. Hassan did not reign supreme when it came to field warfare. The last was also the most crucial point: Yin Chang's dagger squad. Yin Chang modified Lu Guangbai's war chariot battle formation and split the soldiers into daggers to advance onwards. Haragu secretly learned this move on the sly, allowing Xiao Qiye to find a new opportunity back at the Biwen hunting grounds to turn things around. Xiao Qiye then incorporated the dagger formation into his own war chariot formation, thereby giving rise to the current Libai armored cavalry of tremendous might and formidability. Very quickly, Qi came to understand that the iron hammers were now useless, as they could not avoid the long blades to get close to the Libai armored cavalry. But when he swapped out the iron hammers, the Libai armored cavalry would attack in columns. It was just like several bayonets suddenly flicking out of a box to stab at the scorpions until they could not even fend for themselves. Those bright, shiny edges of the blades extended and retracted at will. This was equivalent to a heavy-duty war chariot, one that discarded the wooden structure of the common siege weapons, was completely forged with iron and steel, and came with improved mobility. As long as Xiao Qiye was willing to give the go-ahead, the Libai armored cavalry could even dismantle on the spot and switch over to field squads to lay ambushes. Even though it was still in its infancy and was even a little raw around the edges, it was undoubtedly a Libai armored cavalry that completely belonged to Xiao Qiye. Qi saw defeat looming right before his eyes, but then he heard a falcon's cries among the snow. His Saker falcon retracted its wings and circled its way down the heavens, bringing with it the reinforcement troops he had been waiting a long time for. Why are there so many soldiers? Yin Chang was about to sit on the ground to pour away the watery blood in his boots when he saw the cavalry swarming out from the southwest like ants. He hurriedly clambered to his feet and stomped his feet into his boots. We're done for. This is almost fucking 3 times our military strength. The Scorpions' morale was instantly boosted. Sounds of killing crashed over them like the roaring waves as both parties engaged in a battle of life and death before the Hashi sinkhole. Gleaming blood splattered through the snow. The Libai armored cavalry and imperial army went all out. The only chance they had to break out of the encirclement was now. If they missed the opportunity tonight, they were as good as dead. Gu Jin lifted Haragu by his back collar and kicked him into the crowd of people. Seeing Yin Chang limping a little, he leveled his blade to strike away the Biancha cavalry and shouted to the old man. "Elder Yin, are you injured?" Yin Chang wrinkled his red nose, rotated his ankle a few times self-consciously, and answered, My foot is itching from all that soaking." Haragu nimbly dodged the scimitars from where he was in the crowd. Every now and then, he even had to flash his little golden token to the imperial army, who had gone berserk from the killing. "We're on the same side." On the other end, Achi, who was far more adept at wielding the scimitar than the hammer, was already battling it out with Xiao Qiye. The trampling and stomping in the tussle between both parties' troops caused the ground to shake. No one knew whose horse flipped over first, but following that, the edges of the sinkhole collapsed entirely, sending everyone tumbling into it in one jumbled mess. The Imperial army ingested several mouthfuls of mud and popped their heads out from among the dense mass of enemies to shout to each other. "Fuck! Did Second Master get jostled down there, too?" As Lang Tao Shuijin rolled and sank into the bottom of the pit, Achi pounced from a rock. Unable to get to his feet in time, Xiao Qiye lifted his foot to kick Achi in the chest, causing Achi to stagger back a few steps from the impact. Meanwhile, Xiao Qiye had already straightened up. The hammer came swinging almost in his face, and as Xiao Qiye dodged the blow, he used his arm guard to block the attack. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Thud. Feng Ta Shuangyi knocked over the old and dilapidated wooden fence as Shen Zequan galloped across the snowstorm with his overcoat flapping in the wind. Frosty snow flew between his facial features, his side profile reflecting a somber, forbidding harshness. Fei Shen, not daring to be complacent and careless on the battlefield, followed closely behind Shen Zequan's horse with the Jin Yue. Tan Taihu, not daring to let Shen Zequan take the lead either, led his troops to chase after the prefectural lord with such haste that he was almost standing on his saddle. He shouted at Shen Zequan across the gale, "Your lordship! It's right in the northeast, the Hashi sinkhole." Sprays of flying snow erupted under his horse's hooves. Shen Zequan had gripped the reins until it was soaked. He had not made a single stop on the journey here, and Feng Ta Shuangyi was already exhausted. Hashi sinkhole. All that Shen Zequan passed by on his way was a white, boundless expanse of wilderness. But the moment he entered the vicinity of Hashi sinkhole, that nightmare came surging to the surface like a tidal wave, and the familiar stench of blood choked his nose and throat. Shen Zequan gasped for air, unable to see Xiao Qiye in the bloodshed. Shen Zequan shouted in a grim voice. "Xiao Xiyan!" Fei Sheng surveyed the surroundings and saw Yin Chang, who in turn saw the prefectural lord all dressed in white from afar, a rather conspicuous sight here. He jumped up and down, waving his blade as he shouted. "The sinkhole, in the sinkhole, Second Master is in the sinkhole." In that instant, Shen Zequan's face turned a shade of ghastly white. With icy cold limbs, he rolled off the horse, even his hands that were holding onto Yang Shan Shui were trembling. Blood seeped through his white robe, wetting it as he stepped over the corpses. All he could see was the sinkhole that appeared in his nightmares millions of times. Shen Zequan could not bother with anyone else. He stumbled along the sinkhole and slid down. Heavy snow filled all over the sky. He trembled as he shouted, "Xiao Xiyan!" Nightmare and reality overlapped. Shen Zequan had seen his own body strewn amongst the corpses here before, but he had never imagined that Xiao Qiye would be among those lying here. Fei Sheng had never seen the prefectural lord in such a state. He hurried over to help him up, but Shen Zequan refused. He dug up the body before Lang Tao Shuijin among the bloodied mountain of corpses, raking so hard with his hands that they both turned slick with blood. One corpse suddenly raised a hand, and grabbed hold of Shen Zequan's wrist with speed and accuracy. Lanzo, Xiao Qiye felt suffocated under the helmet. Lan, Shen Zequan had already pushed off Xiao Qiye's helmet. In that whirling snow, he got a clear look at Xiao Qiye's face, and with no regard for the bloodstains, he hugged Xiao Qiye's head tightly in his embrace. Xiao Qiye backhandedly stroked Shen Zequan's back. He wanted to say something, but in the soughing of the wind, he heard Shen Zequan call out over and over in a small voice. "Xiao Qiye! Xiao Qiye! Xiao Qiye!" Xiao Qiye's heart ached with such ferocity that it broke into pieces. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 209, Embrace. Hashi sinkhole was Shen Zequan's darkest hour. When he first entered the Temple of Penitence, the insides of the temple were old and dilapidated, with broken windows that could not keep out the chilly wind. Jigang kept the only spot that was sheltered from the wind for him to sleep, and he would rest his head on his arms, not daring to tell his Shifu that he could not fall asleep at all. Back then, Shen Zequan could still remember Jimu's face. There were shadows of Hua Pingting in his big brother, a handsome man with delicate features. The number of matchmakers coming to play go-between while he was still at home was enough to break their threshold from all those comings and goings. "I've been thinking about my promotion." Jimu was squatting in the courtyard, picking up dumplings to eat. "Let's move to the eastern side once I'm promoted." Shen Zequan imitated him and stuffed himself with dumplings until his cheeks were bulging. He nodded and slurred his words with his mouth full. "I'll watch sister-in-law for you." Jimu had a childhood playmate, a maiden who originally lived next door to them and later moved away to the east. This maiden's father played up to those in power and was always thinking of marrying his daughter off to someone in the Yamen. In order to prove himself, Jimu enlisted in the military and worked hard all day attending to official duties, hoping to wed the maiden before she was married away. Jigang did not earn much. Their family was not well off. With 2 sons to raise, Hua Pingting even saved her own dowry as funds for her sons' future weddings. Seeing as Jimu was already of age, she and Jigang contemplated engaging a matchmaker. Winter in Duan province was a scene of desolation. The Hashi River lay to the east. When they were a little younger, they would go onto the ice in winter to pull sleds. Shen Zequan was a smart one, and he always coaxed the little rascals who tagged along to be the horses while he himself played the old master sitting on the sled as he directed them to run all over the place. Jimu told Jigang at that time, "My younger brother will definitely go far in the future." Hua Pingting treated Shen Zequan as her own son, and so Jimu treated Shen Zequan as his own kin younger brother. When Xiao Qiye and Xiao Jiming were in Libei riding horses and drawing bows, Jimu was still taking Shen Zequan running around all over the mountains and plains. Shen Zequan was very sloppy in his training of the Ji clan boxing style before he was 15 years old, but Jimu always covered for him and would not let Hua Pingting admonish him. In the 3rd year of the Xian era, Jimu was promoted to squad commander. The entire family was delighted, and Hua Pingting started making arrangements by counting the family's savings over and over again as she and Jigang prepared to hire a matchmaker to propose marriage to the maiden in the east. At that time, Jimu had to be on duty. Shen Zequan took the food Hua Pingting packed for him and went to the garrison troops camp to deliver the meal to his elder brother. That night was the last time Shen Zequan saw Hua Pingting. His Xiniang stood at the entrance of the courtyard, where she fastened his lined jacket for him and put on his fur collar. She covered him up securely and gave him the instructions to leave and return early. Jimu secretly gave Shen Zequan wine to drink, and Shen Zequan drank it by dipping his chopsticks in it, looking very much like a green radish wrapped in a lined jacket sitting among a row of tough and muscular soldiers. When the snow fell, these rugged men said that the timely snow was an auspicious omen for a good harvest. Duan province was going to have a bumper harvest next year. Jimu wrapped his chopsticks on the porcelain bowl and sang the tune, a song for peaceful and tranquil times. At that time, Jimu was only 20 years old and was about to marry and bring home a pretty wife. Both brothers got along harmoniously with one another, and their parents at home were free from illnesses and worries. He was right in the prime of his life. Every time Shen Zequan thought back to that night, tears would stream down his cheeks. He lost the courage to reminisce and walk down memory lane when he was in the Temple of Penitence. He no longer dreamed of those times again. Over the course of 7 years in which he was plagued by nightmares, Jimu turned into a grotesque skeleton. Shen Zequan forgot what his elder brother looked like. He could not even remember their last conversation. Why didn't he pull Jimu up? Shen Zequan crawled his way out, then fell back in again. In the first few years, he would still lie within and cry inconsolably. And so, Shen Zequan was left behind here. He stood up and saw the snow burying himself. Military boots trod upon the snow, making slight noises. Shenzequan apathetically turned his head back and saw a travel-worn Jimu in the snow. Jimu was clean this night, without a trace of injury on him. He held on to the hilt of his blade and approached Shenzequan. Jimu had not changed at all even after 7 years. His cheeks were slightly red from the freezing cold, and he huffed breaths of hot air as he walked. All that hostility during the struggle in the sea of blood vanished without a trace. Shenzequan looked at him and remembered the song for peaceful and tranquil times that he sang before his departure. Shenzequan, who was already as tall as Jimu, called out wearily, "Ji." Jimu stood still before Shenzequan. As the snowstorm tousled the messy hair on his temples, he asked, "Why aren't you going home? The snow is too heavy." "I forgot the way," Shenzequan answered. Jimu laughed as he looked at Shenzequan. "Silly lad. Mother's looking for you." Shenzequan looked back and saw Hua Pingting on the other end. Shi Niang was carrying a lantern in the heavy snow, the hem of her skirt swaying in the wind. As he watched her, the tears started to gush from his eyes. He remembered everything. That was why he wanted to forget it all. Jimu held his blade steady and passed through Shenzequan to walk towards Hua Pingting. Shenzequan suddenly could not contain himself and shouted, "Ji." With a teary voice, Shenzequan disconsolately attempted to grab Jimu. But Jimu did not turn back. Shenzequan chased after him. Every step he took, the blood under his feet rose an inch. He hastily started running, but he could not break free of his shackles. Eventually, he fell into the pool of blood, where he was bogged down by corpses. He shouted himself hoarse after Jimu, "Come back." Jimu was already about to vanish in the snow. Shenzequan failed to grasp hold of anything as the blood swallowed him up in the inundated sinkhole. The terror of drowning swept over him. He could not breathe. All he could do was struggle and look on helplessly as that faint light died out. "Shen Lanzhou." Xiao Qiye scooped up Shenzequan. Those sturdy shoulders of his could stand up against the assault of the storm. He brought with him the light of the blazing sun, and he used the strong wind to sweep this dark, gloomy world clean, dispelling the snowstorm. He was scorching hot, so scalding that there was no room for anything else around Shenzequan. Shenzequan abruptly returned to his senses. He was soaked all over through and through. Xiao Qiye cupped his cheeks, touched the tip of his nose to his in the darkness, and kissed him soothingly. Still gasping for breath, Shenzequan wrapped his arms around Xiao Qiye's neck, his eyes turning damp as they clung to each other in a snuggle. Xiao Qiye leaned in closer to coax him, "Lanzhou, come back. Come back to me." With his heart still palpitating, Shenzequan nodded. He bumped his forehead against Xiao Qiye's and gazed at Xiao Qiye with panicked eyes. Xiao Qiye wiped the corner of his eyes with his thumbs and caressed his cheeks. "Everything is all right now." Xiao Qiye dropped him a kiss each time he spoke. "Give me a hug." The military tent was newly erected. The fire in the charcoal brazier did not burn strong enough and went out in the middle of the night. Both of them slept on a simple plank bed, padded with a thin mattress underneath, and with an overcoat blanketing them. Fearing that Lanzhou would fall sick, Xiao Qiye grabbed his icy hands, stuffed them into his clothes, and pressed them against his own chest. Shenzequan's breathing calmed down as he grasped at Xiao Qiye's clothes until they wrinkled. Not once had Xiao Qiye's arms ever let go of him, and it was in this position that he covered them with the overcoat and whispered to him underneath. "Are you cold?" Xiao Qiye asked. Shenzequan buried his face in the crook of Xiao Qiye's neck and answered in a quiet voice, "Cold." Xiao Qiye embraced Shenzequan tightly and pressed down in the center of the top of his head with his chin. With eyes half closed, he said, "Stick a little closer and you won't be cold anymore." Both of them clung to each other for warmth, like a pair of mutually dependent cubs relying on each other for survival. Shanzequan reached out to feel his way to Xiao Qiye's back, his touch so icy cold that Xiao Qiye inhaled sharply. Touching that wolf set Shanzequan's mind at ease. His touch was careful and delicate, as though he was stroking a wolf's fur. The stroking of the prominent muscles on Xiao Qiye's back tickled him, but there was nowhere for him to hide, so he could only tilt his head back slightly and endure the waves of tingling sensation washing over the small of his back. Eventually, he could no longer bear it and lifted a hand to grab hold of Shanzequan's wrist before turning over to pin Lanzhou down beneath him. His breathing was slightly heavy as he pressed up against him without moving. Shanzequan sulked in a huff. "Didn't you want to hug? Is that what you call a hug?" Xiao Qiye leaned in closer to press down on him, then repeated his question in a whisper. "Is that what you call a hug?" Shanzequan was of the opinion that this voice was one that escaped from his throat. He looked at Xiao Qiye, seeming to be choked with silent indignation. Xiao Qiye released Shanzequan's wrist and slid his hand down along the latter's waist, his touch turning Shanzequan's face a shade of red. That was ticklish. He could still endure it at the beginning, but Xiao Qiye pressed against him with his chest, stirring him up so much that his expressive eyes gradually glazed over with water again. In between short, urgent breaths, he tilted his head up and smiled. Xiao Qiye loved Lanzhou's smile to the moon and back when those half-shut eyes rippled with tidal surges of emotions, with Xiao Xian's silhouette drowning in them. Shanzequan smiled until his neck turned damp and his clothes clung to his back, soaked with sweat. He felt tired as he calmed his breathing to welcome Xiao Qiye's kiss. It was warm under the overcoat, so stifling that Shanzequan forgot all about the snowstorm. Xiao Qiye knew Lanzhou did not sleep well, but tonight, he was here. And he was burning with the ambition to make sure that he was all Lanzhou ever dreamed about from now on. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 210, Qingsha Tribe. The snowstorm was still raging the next day at the hour of Mao, and the charcoal braziers in the military tents had all gone cold. Various generals gathered around a map on the table in the tent and waited for Xiao Qiye to speak. The battle over at the Hashi sinkhole was not considered a tough fight, but it was rather perilous. Xiao Qiye took advantage of the snowstorm and led Achi away on ice from the southeast to the Hashi sinkhole, where the deployment of the Biancha troops was relatively weak. Achi's reinforcement troops came so quickly because there was still a relay station in Duan province, but as he had shifted his focus to the southeast and was helpless against Xiao Qiye's Libai armored cavalry, he gave Tan Taihu, who always had his eyes on the movements in Duan province, the opportunity to provide diagonal support. Xiao Qiye had already removed his armor last night. After the military medic withdrew from the tent, he moved his shoulders and arms a little and looked around at them. "We are not here this time to fight a showdown battle with them, but to wrestle Duan province from them. Now that Achi is dead and a large number of their troops are still stationed in the northeast, the number of troops in Duan province is less than 10,000. It's an excellent opportunity." Fei Sheng brought the medicine to Shanzequan and stole a few glances at the latter, noting the prefectural lord to be in passable spirits. "Quite a number of cavalrymen escaped yesterday." Yin Chang pressed a finger down to the southeast of Duan province. "The troops here will suspect we are going to attack Duan province once they receive the news. They will definitely move to intercept us first." The old man feared no one during military discussions. He even casually tied his messy beard together. It was just that he did not dare to drink in Shanzequan's and Xiao Qiye's presence and could only rely on strong tea to satisfy his cravings. Xiao Qiye did not reply immediately. Instead, he left the opportunity to Tan Taihu. In these 2 years, Tan Taihu had gradually come to gain some insights and opinions of his own. He pondered over the second master's meaning and raised a hand to point at Duan province's location. "We are now at the Hashi sinkhole, which is some distance away from Duan province. If the troops in the southeast come here to intercept us, then the military strength in the city of Duan province will remain unchanged. He looked at Xiao Qiye with some apprehension and continued when he saw Xiao Qiye's neutral expression. Get Wu Ziyu, who is stationed in Mount Luo, to make a detour to the west gate of Duan province when that happens, and we will be able to launch a surprise attack directly. Xiao Qiye nodded as an indication that Tan Taihu was right. With a slightly heavy expression, Gu Jin looked at the Hashi River and said, "We can lure all the troops to the Hashi sinkhole by being bait, but master, the Hashi River lies right behind us. The moment Amuer seizes the opportunity to mobilize troops for a sneak attack, or if Hassan is deployed over from the south, then we will end up being attacked from the front and rear. By then, Wu Ziyu would have already gone around to the west of Duan province while we will be left without reinforcements. By saying that, you're breaking the hearts of those in the war zone." Xiao Qiye watched Shenzequan drink his medicine in between speaking. When he saw that Shenzequan was done, he continued, "Is the Shazan camp not reinforcement?" Gu Jin paused for a moment, then shook his head. "I can't trust Guo, will I?" Xiao Qiye did not continue that thread of conversation. He raised his hand and patted Gu Jin lightly on his back. "My eldest brother has a clear view of the situation from where he is in dying. We must obtain Duan province at all costs. There's still Lu Guangbai and Shifu on the battlegrounds. The three great camps will certainly do their best to stall Hassan. As for Amuer," Xiao Qiye smiled derisively. "The tribe he can deploy at such urgent notice is the Qingsha tribe." Qi Zuyan wanted to send troops to attack the Qingsha tribe. The Empress Dowager and the Ministry of War did not consent, but did that mean there was absolutely nothing she could do about it? Kedong's military provisions are being supplied by the Yan clan, and the carriages are already heading for the Sijun commandery 3 days ago. All Shenzequan could taste in his mouth was bitterness. Commander-in-Chief Qi should have already eaten her fill by now. As long as they could let Qi Zuyan eat her fill, she would dare to play games with Chu capital. She did not venture into the capital for the last few years to contend with those wily old foxes because she did not want to go looking for trouble. But now that the scimitars were almost right before her eyes, all those concerns went flying out of the windows. The speed of the cavalry's advancement in the snow is not as fast as it usually is. "We still have time here to prepare," Xiao Qiye said. "The current campground is rather rudimentary. Have the Dun province garrison troops dig horizontal trenches in the vast expanse of open ground. Take turns to carry out night patrol duty, and send the falcons out for reconnaissance, too. The Imperial Army and Libe armored cavalry have been fighting hard for several days, so rest up whenever possible. We have to conserve our strength and stall the enemies long enough for Wu Ziyu. With the heavy snow obstructing the roads, it would be too late to deliver the message on horseback to Mount Luo." The good thing was that the Libe armored cavalry all brought along their own falcons, which could deliver the message by flying northwest for a few hours. Everyone responded in the affirmative. When they started to discuss among themselves, Xiao Qiye reached under the clothes on his chest and groped around for a moment. Shenzequan set down the medicine bowl and grasped the folding fan in his sleeves when something suddenly sprang onto him between his sleeves. He fixed his eyes on it. It was a piece of candy wrapped in oil paper. Xiao Qiye looked at the map with a straight face, looking as if he was not the one who had done it. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Wu Ziyu slept in Mount Luo until he was awakened by the Deputy General at midnight. He opened the letter that the falcon delivered, read it by the candlelight in the tent, and was instantly wide awake. Not even daring to sleep anymore, he rose to put on his armor. "Where's that Yanhiru?" He had only just said that when Yanhiru popped his head out from the side of the hanging screen and answered, "Here." Wu Ziyu clutched the letter and said gruffly, "Is everyone dead? How can you let him enter as he wishes?" Come on now, don't be mad." Yanhiru made his way in with his hands around his little golden abacus. "His lordship told me to wait here, so I did. What can I do, man?" "Master Wu, aren't you being a tad too cautious? Marching troops to war is different from merchants transporting goods. If something goes awry, we will literally lose our heads. Wu Ziu had dealt with the Mount Luo bandits before when he was preparing military provisions for the Libai armored cavalry last year, so he was not flustered to encounter the likes of Yan Hiru. He put away the letter first before saying, "I'm going to mobilize troops soon. The Mount Luo bandits have only just been eradicated, so it doesn't reassure me to leave you here. Let's do this. Go and pack up quickly. You'll be leaving with me." Yan Hiru had conducted deals with the Biancha people before. There would be no one to watch him if they were to leave him in Mount Luo, and Wu Ziu found it inappropriate. He had to keep an eye on him. Yan Hiru was so frightened that his face turned a shade whiter. Hugging his abacus to his chest, he followed behind Wu Ziu and said, "Blades and swords have no eyes, Master Wu. Why are you taking me with you? My family's businesses all depend on me, so I can't have anything happen to me. You know about Qidong's military provisions, right? I'm the one delivering them now. I'll just stay behind. Or how about you assign someone to send me back to Tse province? Dun province is fine, too. Don't tell me we aren't capable of protecting you given how many soldiers we have." Wu Ziu bared his frightfully white teeth at Yan Hiru. "I'll send you back after the battle. You won't go wrong going with the prefectural lord. I assure you it will not hold up your affairs." Then, without waiting for Yan Hiru's reply, he yelled for the guard outside to stuff Yan Hiru into the horse carriage and secured him to take him away with the troops. Wu Ziu exhaled deeply at the entrance of the tent. It was dark. He took out the crumpled letter earlier to read through it again. The candlelight from the tent fell upon his back. He stared blankly at the word "surprise attack" for a long time. Launching a surprise attack on Duan province concerned Xiao Qiye's safety. This battle had to be fought not only quickly but also steadily. Two men who were inextricably linked to the war situation were now both at the Hashi sinkhole, and Wu Ziu could not afford to take responsibility for the loss of either one of them. He had to shoulder the load of this weight. "But I'm just an escort in the convoy squad." Deep creases formed between Wu Ziu's brows as he frowned. He gazed out through the long night and recalled the first time he met Xiao Qiye. "Aren't you the Libai armored cavalry?" Under the blazing sun, Xiao Qiye partially looked back with eyes deep and quiet. To this day, Wu Ziu still did not dare to answer Xiao Qiye. He seemed to have tacitly agreed that all he could do was to escort the supply wagons, but at the same time, he was loath to accept it. In his early years, he had been sent to Bianbo camp as a punishment by Xiao Jiming for drinking on the job. He watched as Zhao Hui became the commanding general of the three great training divisions of Liuyang, and now he was watching as Chen Yang and Gu Jin were successively entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Meanwhile, Xiao Qiye held him back in Bianbo camp, never putting him at the forefront. Wu Ziu spat and stuffed the letter back into his bosom. He took 2 steps in the snow before suddenly leaping up and swinging his clenched fists around in the air a few times. Since Xiao Qiye dared to give him the opportunity, then he would dare to stake his life and all that he held dear to fight a battle for second master. ******. The snow gradually lightened at the hour of U the next day. Xiao Qiye put on his heavy armor in the military tent. His armor had taken some damage from the assaults of the iron hammers the day before. The left and right arms were the most severely battered, especially the left arm, which had repeatedly taken the brunt of Achi's iron hammers. It was even somewhat dented. Wu Ziu has already arrived at the western side of Duan province. If we last through this night, then we will be able to make a simultaneous attack from the front and back with him tomorrow morning. Xiao Qiye appeared visibly taller when he donned his armor, so much so that he was almost blocking off all the light before Shen Zequan. Shen Zequan sat on the plank bed. In the eyes of the others, his presence here had a far deeper purpose. Xiao Jiming's current daringness to pull out all the stops and let the 3 great camps in the war zone assist Zongbo in the Battle of Duan province was not just because Xiao Qiye was here, but also because Shen Zequan was here. This was the sincerity Libai saw. Fei Sheng will lead the Jinyu Wei to follow after Harigu and can make up for the temporary lack of scouts. Shen Zequan looked on as Xiao Qiye put on his arm guard. If you don't come back tomorrow, then the remaining troops will be put at the forefront of the battle. The troops that Xiao Qiye left behind were meant to serve as a protective barrier for Shen Zequan. If something unexpected were to happen, these people would escort Shen Zequan up north. When the time came, Shazan camp would naturally come to receive him. Xiao Qiye's hand that had been securing the arm guard paused slightly. He looked at Shen Zequan, understanding what Shen Zequan meant. Shen Zequan motioned for Xiao Qiye to squat down. It was inconvenient for Xiao Qiye to squat in his armor, so he simply withdrew a leg and kneeled on one knee on a spot near Lanzhou. Snow outside the tent fell like light willow catkins. Intermittent sounds of Fei Sheng lecturing Yin Chang about his drinking drifted through the air. Meanwhile, the Libai armored cavalry in their heavy armor stepped in the snow and moved in concert with one another. It was noisy all around. Inside the tent, tea that had been set above the charcoal brazier with firewood burning in it started to boil. The expression in Xiao Qiye's eyes was penetrating. Of late, the dazzling brilliance of his talent was becoming harder and harder to conceal. Wait for me here. As a matter of fact, I would like to go. Shen Zequan's overcoat slipped off his shoulders. Imitating Xiao Qiye's past action, he pinched Xiao Qiye's chin and cocked his head slightly. But I don't have that capability. All I can do is to remain here as the wife who shares hardships with his husband. Xiao Qiye, who had been letting Shen Zequan pinch as he wished, burst out laughing upon hearing him. Shen Zequan listened as Gu Jin stopped outside the tent. He took the helmet over and put it on for Xiao Qiye. In that brief exchange of glances, he and Xiao Qiye exchanged a kiss across the steel. After tonight, Xiao Qiye's icy iron fingers caressed Shen Zequan's cheeks, his voice low and deep as he said, "My Lanzhou will be the overlord of Zongbo." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Xiao Qiye tested his new blade on Achi, but it was far from enough. He was so ravenous he could devour the north and south battlefields. Every battle was a trial, he wanted to hone his blade even faster here. The Biancha's massive troops in the southeast numbered 25,000, of which 5,000 were the Scorpions. The remaining cavalrymen lacked horses, so many of them could only stand in temporarily as infantrymen. They lost their commanding general and they were unable to obtain updates from the opposite bank of the Hashi River. Obstructing Xiao Qiye was a measure they were forced to take in order to ensure their safety in Duan province. What Xiao Qiye wanted was for them to be forced into doing so. Once these 25,000 men moved, the western side of Duan province would be completely vacated, and Wu Ziu could immediately begin his attack on the city. The advantage in having Shen Zequan seal off Zongbo would then become apparent, as Duan province would not get any sort of assistance, and since their grains had already been supplied to Achi's 20,000 soldiers, the 8,000 troops remaining behind to keep guard on Duan province would all have to meet the enemy's attack on empty stomachs. When the battle in Zongbo started, it was in the dead of night over at the Bianjun commandery. News of Achi's defeat had yet to make it to the Qingsha tribe, whose night patrol squad was presently roaming around the Bianjun commandery. The commanding general of the Qingsha tribe was called Suman, who used to be Hassan's deputy general and could also partake in the discussion of official affairs when he was under Amuer's command. However, because his tribe was not powerful enough, he lost the opportunity to follow Hassan up north. He had also crossed swords with Lu Guangbai here before. The Bianjun commandery was devoid of snow that night. From afar, Suotian Pass looked like a sleeping beauty lying in slumber upon the city. There were bits of floating snow in the air, while no trace of the moon could be seen when one raised their head. Suman felt the Bianjun commandery to be too silent tonight. It made him feel ill at ease, so he increased the number of people on night patrol, keeping all eyes on the eastern front of the Bianjun commandery in case of a surprise attack from the garrison troops. During the latter half of the night patrol squad set up a bonfire in the wilderness, where they filled their stomachs with melted snow as they roasted the dried meat jerky that they carried with them. The scorpions in the north have been winning battles. A cavalryman of the Qiang tribe said in the Biancha tongue as he broke off the dried meat jerky. They're about to merge into the 12 tribes and become a tribe near the north. By then, will we still be able to get our hands on provisions? Suman drank the melted snow, shaking his head as he said, the hero will never allow the scorpions to become a tribe of their own. They are the slaves of the Liaoying tribe. The mothers of the scorpions were all natives of Great Zhou, and with the emergence of traders like Haraguo, it would be difficult to convince the masses even if they were victorious in battles. Moreover, the person who all the tribes in the desert answered to was Hassan. If they can give us Geedle, the cavalryman smiled at Suman, then we won't have to worry about starving in the future anymore. Suman gulped down the melted snow and did not answer immediately. He had sounded Amuir out before but did not receive a response. The Qiang tribe was not a powerful tribe, and the Liaoying tribe of today was no longer the minor tribe it had been in the past. Moreover, the Huiyan tribe had thrown in their lot with Libei, leaving their Qiang tribe behind here to choke on sand with the Bianjun garrison troops. But who would have expected that the Bianjun commandery garrison troops themselves to take off in the end? After being stationed here day in and day out, Suman could not see a future. He pinned all his hopes on his son, but as it happened, his son came to a premature end at the beginning of spring this year. There is purpose in waiting. These were the only words of comfort Suman could offer. At least we won't face reprisals from Libei if we stay here. The cavalryman burst into laughter. Halfway through the bonfire, a cavalryman saw several stray dogs behind him. He brandished a withered branch at them and shooed at them to drive them away. But these stray dogs were so starving they were drooling and panting warm air as they circled the cavalry. Chase them away, Suman ordered. So the cavalryman stood up, grabbed his scimitar, and started to stomp his feet as well. The stray dogs cowered back for a moment and the cavalryman, with his bulging belly, turned back to suggest to Suman. We can hunt them. Dogskins can. Before the cavalryman could finish his words, the stray dogs pounced. It was as though they had gone mad as they tore at the cavalryman with their fangs and dragged him with such force that he fell over to the ground. The dogs latched onto his arm that had been holding onto the scimitar. The leather could not withstand the sharp fangs of the stray dogs, and the pain cut so deep that it sent him screaming. Suman promptly stood up, and the cavalryman on night patrol caught up to the cavalryman in distress and kicked out at the stray dogs as they dragged him back. Suman noticed that the eyes of these dogs were oddly red with rage, so to be on the safe side, he told the cavalryman, shoot them to death with the bows. Something's wrong with these dogs. A few faint cries of a Chinese francolin reverberated through the night. As if sensing danger, the stray dogs turned tail and fled as the cavalrymen got on their horses and drew their bows. The dogs ran westward in a panic, and the cavalrymen followed in hot pursuit. A stray dog took an arrow to the leg and limped as it continued to flee onward. The cavalryman behind it drew his scimitar and leaned down with the intention to end the stray dog with one slash in between the sprinting of his horse. They galloped wildly, splashing froths of snow in the air. An explosive whoosh rang out, and a long arrow came hurtling from the west. The cavalryman instantly fell off his horse. His legs, however, were still hanging from the saddle, and he ended up getting dragged by the horse across the demarcation line. Oh, shit. Suman swore to himself, feeling a sense of foreboding. Amuir had long instructed them not to engage Qidong in battle at this moment. As long as they did not attack, Qiang could not step to the fore. He immediately reined in his horse and shouted, fall back. But the torches ahead lit up all of a sudden, illuminating the surroundings brightly. Qiang! From where he was on horseback, Suman cried out in the Great Zhou's tongue, women are truly devious. Qiang stood in front of the combat-ready garrison troops in full battle array. As she crushed the snow beneath her foot, she leisurely said, light up the beacon tower. Inform the Chu capital that the Qingsha tribe has breached the boundary line and invaded our territory. The Kadong garrison troops abruptly lined up their shields, and the cold steel of their blades glinted and flashed. End chapter.